The Toyota Sequoia. This large SUV fights a pretty tough battle against its American competitors. It probably shouldn't come as a surprise, but the big three American brands dominate the large SUV segment. The Chevy Tahoe is the king of the segment and consistently hits over 100,000 units sold each year. And then the GMC Yukon and the Ford Expedition fight back and forth for the number 2 spot, with both selling over 80,000 units in 2021. You know how many Sequoias were sold in 2021? Just a little over 8,000. And you know why? Because it's been 15 years since there was a new Sequoia. I mean, the last time the Sequoia saw an update was the same year the first gen iPhone came out. Tumblr.com had just launched, Instagram didn't even exist, Elon Musk didn't have a Twitter account, and Tesla hadn't even made its first car. Well, now, in 2022, I'm recording this 4K video that you're watching on my iPhone. What even happened to Tumblr? Tesla's success has made Elon Musk the richest man in the world, and he's now trying to buy Twitter and Toyota. Well, Toyota finally decided to take the large SUV segment seriously. My name is Omar, and this is the 2023 Toyota Sequoia. You know what's crazy? Even the more expensive and the way more luxurious Cadillac Escalade sells more than the Sequoia. But all that's about to change. Toyota says that the Sequoia is now ready to make its mark, and for the third generation, the Sequoia now gets an all-new platform that it shares with the new Tundra, the Land Cruiser, and the Lexus LX. It's got an all-new versatile interior that feels more upscale, it's got a bunch of new tech, it looks pretty good from the outside. So, is the Sequoia really ready to make its mark in the large SUV segment? Let's find out. Let me give you a tour of the new Sequoia. We'll check out the inside, we'll check out the outside, and then I'll give you my opinion on whether or not if you should buy the 2023 Sequoia over the competition. Make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe. All right, let's do this. All right, let's start off talking about what's under the hood, because you no longer have a V8. You now have an iForce Max setup here that we first saw on the Tundra, which is a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6 with an electric motor, making 437 horsepower and 583 pound-feet of torque, and it's made it to a 10-speed automatic transmission. A lot of you might be upset, but don't worry, because now you have 56 more horsepower than the V8 and an extra 182 pound-feet of torque, so you're not going to miss that V8 too much. All right, let's check out the inside of the new Sequoia. And before we talk about the tech and the convenience, let's check out the legroom in the second row and the third row, as well as the cargo capacity. Hop in the second row of the Sequoia and you're working with a total of 39.2 inches of legroom. I'm about 6 foot tall. That is my seating position. As you can see, I have a good amount of room. Now, here's the thing. While this is still spacious, it's still one of the smallest second row legrooms in the segment. The Tahoe and the Yukon will give you 42 inches of legroom in the second row, and other rivals will also top 40 inches. Now, to get into the third row, all you do is pull this latch right here, and the second row folds down and lifts up, giving you access to get into the third row. Now, once you get back here, you have a total of 28 inches of legroom, but you can slide the third row forward and back 6 inches to increase that up to 33.7 inches. Not only that, you can also recline the third row if you want to kick back and relax. Keep in mind though, the Tahoe will give you a little more at 35 inches in the third row, and there are competitors that will give you more legroom in the third row than the Sequoia. Also, the headroom in the third row of the Sequoia is a little less than the competitor, so someone on the taller side might have some difficulty back here. All right, let's check out the cargo capacity. You're working with a total of 22.3 cubic feet behind the third row, 49 cubic feet behind the second row, and with both rows folded, you're working with 87 cubic feet. Nonetheless, due to the fact that this is now a hybrid, that means it loses the independent rear suspension of the previous generation to make room for the battery pack. So the third row and the trunk space are among the smallest in the class. You have this shelf that can be adjusted into 3 levels. The first level will give you a flat load floor behind the third row. Not to mention you can slide the third row right from back here instead of having to walk around and doing it from inside. You can just pull this latch and do it from right here. Move it up to the second level, and when you fold down the third row, you'll have a flat surface all the way through, leveling out the third row and the second row, and then you also have some extra storage right here under the second level where you can throw in smaller items. Now, what about this third level? Move it up to the third level, and what's cool here is that when you pop open the back window to throw or grab items from the cargo area, you can easily reach in and get anything you want. That's really cool, and if you're wondering, this shelf holds up to 220 pounds depending on the level. That said, as far as quality and design go, the Sequoia doesn't disappoint. The overall interior is very similar to the one you have on the Tundra. The capstone model that I'm testing here is the top of the line trim, and this is the best that the Sequoia gets. You get these really comfortable semi-aniline leather seats, but you don't have any massaging seats like you do on the Denali trim of the Yukon. But honestly, it's not a big miss here because it's not like those massaging seats really cure any back pains anyway. Tech-wise, you're working with a giant 14-inch touchscreen display that houses the new Toyota infotainment system. The lower trims of the Sequoia get an 8-inch touchscreen display. And in my experience with it, this system is pretty quick and free of glitches. You get wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto as standard, and they look great on this giant screen. However, keep in mind that the navigation system is part of a subscription service, and if you don't subscribe to it, every time you click navigation, it'll say, subscribe or something. I wish they could just take that part away. You also have a few camera angles in here. You obviously have a rear view camera, which is standard, but if you go for the higher trims of the Sequoia, you get a 360-degree camera along with a range of other camera angles that you'll need to park the giant Sequoia. As far as the gauge cluster goes, all Sequoia trims now come standard with a 12.3-inch digital display, and while it's nothing fancy, you don't have a full screen map view or anything like that, this screen is still pretty smooth and displays a bunch of useful information. Overall, the interior is really well built, something that you would expect from Toyota. You have physical and easy to use buttons and switches for your climate controls and other functions, like adjusting your air suspension. You also have some tow and haul and drive mode controls right here, and the blank buttons here would not be blank on the TRD Pro, and that would consist of crawl mode and some other off-roading functions. Let's check out the outside, because while the Sequoia is lagging a bit behind when it comes to things like the second row and third row legroom, the exterior is definitely one of the best in the large SUV segment. I mean, just look at this thing. It looks a lot like the Tundra from the front end, and that's not a bad thing at all. To be honest, when I first saw the Tundra, the first thing I said was that it would look better as an SUV. And as you can see, the front end is all Tundra, and it looks very bold and very aggressive with this giant grille and these really sharp LED headlamps, and you have sequential turn signals. Those look really nice. I like the design of these headlamps quite a bit. Swing over to the side and you'll really notice the presence of the Sequoia. It stretches a total of 208 inches, making it one of the shorter options in the segment. Ground clearance comes in at 8.6 inches for all Sequoia models except for the TRD Pro, which has 9.1 inches. That's pretty much on par with the rest of the segment. Now, swing around the back, and if you thought the front end looked sharp, the rear end of the Sequoia looks even better. You have this giant Sequoia lettering right here, which I really like, and I really love the design of these taillights. These taillights look really dope, and in my opinion, this is one of the best looking rear ends of all large SUVs. So how much is this going to hurt your wallet? Let's talk pricing really quick. The Sequoia gets around an $8,000 increase for 2023 over the outgoing model. It went from being one of the cheapest options in the segment to being one of the most expensive. Nonetheless, it comes packed with more standard features. You have 5 trims to pick from, including the SR5, Limited, Platinum, TRD Pro, and the new Capstone trim. The base SR5 trim starts you off with a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster display. However, the center touchscreen display is 8 inches instead of 14, but functionality-wise, it's the same as the larger screen. As standard, you also get fabric seats, but they are heated. You also get a power adjustable driver's seat as well as a power adjustable passenger seat, which, yeah, you should at this price tag. You also have a 3-zone climate control system as standard and a few other items. Now, the cool thing here is that you don't have to go far up from the base trim to get some extra luxurious items. Go for the SR5 Premium and you get soft text fake leather seats. The 8-inch touchscreen display now becomes 14 inches. You get a power folding third row and more. Now, if you're like, hey Omar, I work really hard for my money and I want some ventilated front seats. Well, if you want those, you will have to step up to the Limited trim, and that will also give you memory seats along with the heated steering wheel. Moving up to the Platinum, we'll add on a panoramic sunroof, heated and ventilated front seats together, and a power adjustable steering wheel. And over here in the Platinum is where you can start going into a 7-passenger configuration with second row captain chairs with a heated and ventilated second row. The Platinum will also add on things like a JBL sound system, a heads-up display, and it will also add wireless charging, which kind of annoys me that you can't get wireless charging on lower trims. That should just be standard across all trims. And then when you get all the way up to the Capstone trim, you get exclusive luxury touches like burled walnut trim. All the seats are wrapped in semi-aniline leather, which is really soft and very plush. The front and the second row are heated and cooled, and you get much more. Of course, if you go for the Sequoia TRD Pro, you'll get an off-road suspension with 2.5-inch Fox internal bypass coilovers, a TRD Pro front stabilizer bar, a TRD aluminum front skid plate, dual exhaust tips, the giant Toyota Heritage grille, which I absolutely love. I would go for the TRD Pro just because of that grille. You also get this awesome TRD Pro light bar and the awesome marker lights and much more. All right, now before I give you my opinion on how the new Sequoia drives and whether or not if you should buy it over the competition, let me point out a few daily ownership highlights that I'll have to show all of you. You have 10 cup holders, 2 right there and 2 right there. Those are for the rear passengers. And then you have 2 right in the middle if you get the second row captain chairs. And then third row passengers get 2 cup holders on each side because, you know, they get very thirsty and it's hard to get drinks in the third row. They're so far away. Here are what the keys look like to the new Sequoia. Not that special. I wish Toyota would update their keys. Door open and close sign from the outside and from the inside. Solid. Charging game wise, in the front you're working with a wireless charger and a USB 8 port right there. This is not available on every single trim of the Sequoia. And then in the center armrest you have a USB A port, a USB-C port, and some coin holders right there. Those hanging out in the second row get a USB-C port, a USB A port, and a 120 volt household outlet right there. In the third row, the passenger sitting to the left of the vehicle has a USB-C port right there. And the third row passenger sitting to the right of the vehicle has a USB-C port right here. Now, I would honk the horn, but I'm sitting in Toyota's headquarters and I don't want to scare people that are working. So here's a clip from my TikTok. Here's how the indicator sounds. And here's how the horn sounds on the 2023 Toyota Sequoia. Sorry. All right, so let's take this for a drive. Now, I know a lot of you out there might be upset that the V8 is gone, but that's the world we live in, and this iForce Max system is no slouch. It makes significantly more power than the outgoing model, and the power delivery is smooth and so seamless. And if you're getting a large SUV for your family trips, and if you're going to be towing anything, the Sequoia will offer you a max towing capacity of 9,520 pounds. Not only is that 26% more than the outgoing model, but that's quite a bit more than the Chevy Tahoe. Now, I know having a V8 engine is very important to some people in a large vehicle like this, but when you have power like this and you can tow a lot more than the outgoing one with the V8, I don't know what the problem is. I think this twin turbo V6 hybrid setup is a very solid one. Keep in mind that the Sequoia is based on the GFA platform that also underpins the Land Cruiser and the Lexus LX, and the main goal of that platform is to provide you with more capability and more comfort. And when it comes to comfort, the Sequoia is a very smooth daily driver. Now, it's not Lexus LX smooth, but it's still pretty good. Now, I know what you're thinking. Most large SUVs are comfortable, so there's no major achievement there. But I will say that the Tahoe and the Yukon, even though they have improved on their wafty big body motions from the last generation, the movements and the motions in the Sequoia are virtually non-existent. I feel like the Tahoe and the Yukon feel a little bit bigger to drive. This doesn't feel as big. This honestly feels like you're driving a Kia Telluride or a Hyundai Palisade. Now, when it comes to drive modes, depending on the model you go for, you're working with Eco, Normal, Comfort, Sport, Sport S Plus, and Custom. Now, I drove it around in each mode. I didn't feel too much of a difference between Normal and Comfort, but when you pop it into Sport mode, it really comes to life. 0 to 60 comes in at 5.7 seconds, which is pretty similar to the Tahoe, and you have that fake pumped-in engine noise, which I don't think you can turn off, but it is pretty loud actually. Handling wise, it handles exactly as you would expect a large SUV to handle. This thing is still pretty big, and in four-wheel drive form it weighs over 6,000 pounds, but I have to say that it does handle its weight well. It doesn't feel super heavy to drive, but I would still recommend being careful around sharp bends and sharp turns. We don't have official fuel economy numbers yet, but Toyota says that it will be similar to the Tundra with an iForce Max hybrid system. I've been driving around on the highway and some in-town driving, and I'm averaging so far a total of 17.1 miles a gallon, and that's what you would expect in a vehicle of this size. So yeah, I think it is time to take the Sequoia a little bit more seriously. Now, if you do care about off-roading, the Sequoia TRD Pro is the only option in this segment with a locking differential and crawl control. I don't know how many people will actually be off-roading in their Sequoia, but you do have that option in this segment, and the Sequoia TRD Pro is really your only one. Now, climbing above 7,000 to 8,000 units sold on an annual basis is a pretty tough task, especially when you're competing with legends like the Chevy Tahoe that sell over 100,000 units each year. Yes, the Sequoia has a long road ahead of itself to prove itself in the large SUV segment, but I think this time around, the Sequoia can definitely make its mark. Either way, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe, make sure you follow me on Instagram and on TikTok. My handle is @OmarDrives. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Peace. And if you're one of those people that goes, hey, I will only buy a large American SUV, just know that the Sequoia is built in Texas alongside the Tundra. So this thing is as American as it gets.